Namaste and hello everyone. We welcome you on this webinar conducted by the regional level guides who are exclusively trained and licensed by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India to put the national motto of 𝗕𝗏𝗍𝗏 into practice. The license guides was a concept initiated by the Government of India to make every tourist feel and absorb incredible India's cultural heritage and pristine beauty through the eyes of a qualified, well-trained and credible license guide. The minimum qualification to be a licensed guide is graduation with proficiency in English or any other foreign language. Candidates are selected based on a national level entrance test and interview, and the license is issued only after successful completion of an intense professional 6-month training program, police verification, and a final exam by the Government of India. As per law, only such licensed guides are allowed to provide guide services in the Archaeological Survey of India monuments in the respective regions. At present, 3,200 plus licensed guides are actively working in India who help earn huge amount of foreign exchange and indirectly contribute to the growth of the Indian economy. Regional level licensed guides are and have always been the cultural, social, and heritage ambassadors of India. And with that, we will now introduce to you the speaker for today.
Namaste, Vanakkam, good afternoon, dear friends. Our
Namaste.
RLG's webinar forum is glad to welcome you all for today's webinar presented by Mr. Sivasankar Babu. He doesn't need much of an introduction because those who are regular heritage enthusiasts, you have met him for sure in the south of India. Sir, hope you are doing well. Welcome, Vanakkam.
Vanakkam, namaste, namaskar, wherever you are. Stay
Sir,
safe.
we say just before we go into the main webinar, sir, we say to progress is to change, to
Yes.
improve is to change,
Yes.
to be perfect is to change often.
Yep.
And you are
Yes,
a very good
happens.
example for this change. What made you change from banking to IT to heritage conservation? Can you please share with us your journey?
Originally, I wanted to be an engine driver, loco pilot. Okay.
Oh,
So after finishing my BSc, I got an offer in a bank in the second year itself. So I enjoyed my studies and then had worked in a bank, Indian Overseas Bank, for 15 years. But
right.
again, during the time, I was learning computers and I was assisting my department in some amount of operations computerization. And this changed me from being a banker to a technical person also. So when I shifted the bank and then go into full-time IT services in banking, the next 25 years I was focusing on technology and the implementation of the business processes in banking. So I became a techno banker. So
All
a
right.
person, right? So this is the name of my company. This is called Techno Bankers, and the advantage for us is that we know both sides. We know the technology, we can do coding, and we have worked in bank also the process. So the
That's a great.
transition and change has been a really good.
Yeah, for sure. And so you
Right.
were, when you were an IT person, you were probably learning scripting languages like Java, C++, Python, and whatnot. And now, with your heritage interest, you are now learning ancient scripts like Tamil Brahmi, Vattelithu, and Grantham and all that. So how
Yes.
interesting this is for you. How, can you compare these languages, sir?
Actually, the syntax of C and Brahmi are very same, very crisp and then precise, and it doesn't give much of a scope for misinterpretation. Like that, each programming language has got its own intricacies. Like that, recently I completed one diploma in archaeology and inscription. So there I was learning many of the scripts of Tamil Nadu, and that gives a fairly good amount of different ways in doing scripting.
Right, right. And so you never stop learning. That's great, sir. And so we
Right.
are all very privileged and honored to have you here on this day, the 1st of May, the Labor Day. Though we RLGs, we are not working for almost more than a year now. Let's go and pay our tribute to the tremendous labor involved in the construction of this great Sun Temple, which Mr. Sivasankar Babu told us it's also called as 𝗕𝗬𝗀𝗏𝗏. So, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, when we approached him, he gave us this title and we didn't know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? And then later on, of course, we did some research and all. We found that it's the popularly well-known Sun Temple of Konark. But he is going to take us on a very different journey, unlike all the other webinars we have had on Konark Sun Temple.
Sure.
So, sir, we welcome you all. And dear friends, I also heartily welcome our friends from the Tamil Heritage Trust, where Mr. Sivasankar Babu is associated with, and also other eminent personalities from our archaeological department, ASI. Please welcome. And so, sir, the stage is all yours. And so we are looking forward and to learning from you, sir, now.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj. It's a privilege and to talk in the famous RLG forum. I have been listening to their talks for now 50 numbers across. Fantastic collection and fantastic preparation. So I was dreaming that one of these days I'll be making a presentation in this. Now the dream come true, and on the Labor Day, we are paying tribute to the Odishan artisans who created a fantastic monument, the one of the kind monuments under an illustrious king. So today we are going to see the Konark Sun Temple. Let me share the screen. Good. Is the screen visible? Title slide?
Sir, yes, sir, very much visible.
Okay, good. Before we go into the talk, I would like to thank the RLG team, which had a confidence in me when I suggested a slightly different kind of topic for May Day. Uh, they readily agreed, and then Mr. Nageswara Rao, Raj, and others are very supportive. He said that let's do it. And to top of that, there was a fantastic initial promo video which was created by Raj and team that has also created a lot of interest. It is of world class, like a Hollywood movie kind of a trailer. When I shared this is what is this new movie? That was a question people are asking. So a great effort, a great. I hope I live up to the expectations that has been created by the promo and. So to start on the May Day, we give our tributes to the artisans of Odisha who created this one of this kind wonder, of which only partly we are able to see now. This was under the able leadership of a visionary king. So what we are going to do today is not like our regular pictorial tours of the monument. We are going into the behind the scene happenings of how a temple is built, how it was done in a different way, and what is the documentation available, how the history is reconstructed for a temple. So before going into the talk, first of all, let me give my acknowledgement and credits. First of all, I thank my the organization which has nurtured me for so many years, 5 years now, and who has trained me in multiple ways in making this happen, absorbing me a lot of the skills and knowledge that has been developed. I initially gave this presentation to Tamil Heritage Trust when I undertook the site seminar for traveling to Orissa in 2016. At the time, each one, we had a group of 40 people and each one had to prepare something. I took the challenge of preparing Konark, and then it has taken me to a totally new world journey on this. And from there, I have been hooked onto Konark and I have been continuously doing reading and research on that. The ASA Konark website, now we are fortunate, the scaffoldings and everything have been removed. Now we have got beautiful pictures without any ugly scaffoldings. And the aerial footage given by ASA Konark is fantastic. Excellent work, which we are going to see later in the day. And some of the images were extensively taken from the book New Light uh, on Sun Temple of Konark. So that was one segment. In terms of references, most of the content in this presentation is from the path-breaking book on 1972 by 𝗬𝗏𝗏 Prasad on New Light on Sun Temple of Konark, which gave a lot of totally different insight. Some of them have been substantiated by the later period Anil Dev book, which expanded more on the engineering concepts and then to a certain extent validated on the content given by the New Light on Konark. So if you want to read more about this, you can read the following book, History of Indian and Indonesian Urban Architecture by Anand Kumar Swamy, by famous author T. Donaldson on Hindu temples of Orissa and Ganga monarch history, and the famous K.S. Behra book, Konark the Black Pagoda. So this will give some more interesting insight into what we are talking today. So before we start the actual presentation, let us set some ground rules on. We presume that this is going to be the English speaking audience, so the focus will be on English language, and we will be going into the basics of temple or pan-Indian history, which will be briefly mentioned. So today we are going to cover what is the mystery and history of Konark, the peak into the king, the artisans who did it, how it was constructed, and the chronology of construction, what led to its fall, how it was rediscovered, and some peek into the original drawings and the palm leaf drawings which are unearthed during this, and finally a fly past of the monument. What we are not going to cover in this 1.5 hours, it's very difficult, is that we are not going into the temple architecture details and then cover in detail the Deva, Jagmogana, Natya Mandapa and other components of Konark and the superstructure and the beautiful sculptures available in terms of historical and secular. Probably, if time permits at a later point of time, we may have a repeat of this. So, like I mentioned earlier, these are the very good books which you can read that are available in the market, and it will be an exciting thing. This is the sequence I would recommend. First, start with the World Heritage Series by ASA, then expand into Monumental Legacy, then go a little more into Kotak Pakoda, and finally, this is the most complex and detailed book. Now, we are going to see the construction, the dereliction, and discovery of products in three segments. So initially, we are going to see what happened, how it was rediscovered and reinitiated to the current situation. Then, based on the documentation and other things, how the history was reconstructed, and have a peek on the king who made it happen, the artisans who worked under him and created this, the sequence of events, and what is the potential reasons for the decline and fall of this temple. After this, I also will be going very, very brief into the Odisha Temple Architecture just to understand the basic terms and a comparison on how the original Konark Temple would have looked like and what it remains today. So this is a brief. So probably around one, it will take 1 hour. And for some of the cases, I am making a data-rich presentation, but it is for the people to read offline. And I will be highlighting only on the primary important points. To start with, what is Konark? This is the greatest sun temple of India, which has been dedicated to the sun god, the massive temple to the uh, credit. This is a rebuilding of an earlier smaller temple into a larger temple. Interestingly, in Odisha, where we have, which is typically called the land of temples, this is the only one monument to get the World Heritage Monument certification in 1984. Why it is called Konarka? It is called probably after Arka and of the Kona. So probably at the time they thought that it is in the corner of a particular segment in India, and it is also called Padma Kshetra and Bhaskara Tirtha. So this is one of the names, and this is the name where I call Padma Keshari Sthala. Like when you talk about Tanjavur, people are familiar with Brihadishwara temple. Everybody knows it by either Big Temple or Brihadishwara temple. But the original documented name for that particular temple is Raja Rajeshwaram, which was found later by reading the inscriptions. So, like that, this is the name. And Vishnu Purana also refers to this location where this is covered as one of the four kshetras after the four weapons of Vishnu, where Konarka is related to the Padma of Vishnu. Brahma Purana also highlights Utkala as a great religious center of four major sects of Hinduism, and Konaditya is on the Saura cult, focusing on Surya. The other major centers are Ekamra in Bhuvaneshwar for Shiva and Puri for Vishnu and Viraja for Jajpur Devi. So this is history of Konark. And once you cross around the 30 kilometers from Puri, you can see the splendor of this temple. Probably it was built by Narasihma one, and even he would not have seen this beautiful view of the temple from a little high. So what we see is only a part of the full splendor, but even that is enchanting and beautiful to look at. Now let us see how this was rediscovered. Till 16th century, there was references about this temple, and Abul Basal in Aini Akbari refers to this temple, which is described in very glowing terms. But after that, suddenly, for the next 200 years, no information on out, vanished out of the earth. Nobody knows about it. And by the time the Ganga rules are over, and then British have come, and Maratha are ruling Odisha. So during this time, in the 1759, one of the gurus, Baba Brahmachari of the Bonsale ruling there, heard about the legends of a temple and he wanted to travel. He traveled a long way and then finally found a grand mount of the temple and with heavy damage. And he tried and recovered some of the things. The Madala Panji, the documentation of the Puri temple, this talks about the mention that the Aruna Stamba, which is in standing in front of Puri temple, was taken from here. and the image of Raja Narasihma Deva, which is in the Lakshmi Temple, Mukasala, and 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 in Gundicha Temple, and he has taken some of this. So this is the first time after 200 years that somebody found and then try to salvage this. They clearly say that it has been damaged beyond repair, nothing, and then that is why they have shifted many of these. Later, he tries second time, it was not successful, and he had to return to Puri for obvious reasons. And after that, Raja of Maratha was captured, and then the activity stopped, and the Puri area came under British control. So again, another 100 years passed. By 1809, the British start visiting it, make a camp, and then do picture diagrams on this. So we see that the Jakmaguna is still here, but part of the Dula has been already collapsed. It is looking more like a sail. And then the rest of the temple is covered in mounds. Another 24 years and some more damage, and then still it is covered in forest, and it looks more like a ship from a distance. So in 1838, Ferguson visited this, like the way he has documented the other great temples. He also made detailed drawings, and then at the time he says that the projecting side walls are still standing for the main Dula, and the 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃 lintel on top of this entrance is still intact, and the pillars on the Mukasala have collapsed in the front side. And he says that it is nearly like the Bhubaneswar Lingaraj temple, but bigger in size, but lavishness and details are astounding. Later on, people continued to do the research in 1890, and this is how it looked during the start of the 19th century. We have only the Jagmogana view, the rest of this is a mound. We don't see any Ratha, we don't see any platform, nothing, just a mound. And this is how it is viewed from front or side. See the amount of damage to the stones and other things. Still, on the top, the west facade, you can see the structured things, and these are all 6 feet, 8 feet kind of sculptures, and the inner rocks have gone through extensive damage. So when British were handling this picture, if you see from top, this is how it would have looked. Only the amount where the Jagmoguda and the remains of the Dula and a big rubble which is called the Nathamatira. So later on, they started cleaning this area by step, and finally they could see all these things expanding, and then they could find out the full completed structure of Nathamatira. And later on, as they were clearing the places, they found the old temple and all these things, and more and more structures are found. So this took nearly 100 years for this to clean up. And imagine the amount of work and other things would have gone through. So in 1800s, initially, this is what we were seeing. The Jagmogana with the ruined three Parsva Mitra, Pusan, and Haridesa, and the Natha Mantira without any roof. Later on, but even when they were documenting, like we see on the earlier picture, in 1848, the southwest portion of the Dula also collapsed, and everything come up to the Bada or the wall level. Next, as they dug and cleared all the stones, they found the elephants, horses, and the Gajasimhas, and then they were properly set in. And the two Gajasimhas were set in here, which is wrong, because as per the original drawing, they had two more Gajasimhas here. And they also found out the seven horses and the wheels and everything. So at the time, the entire platform was covered in mound. The people thought that that is the base. And only when they dug out in 1900, they were able to see under the platform there is 10 feet worth of exquisite sculptures available. Later on in 1901, the Lieutenant Governor Woodburn, he was inspecting Jagmogana and felt that this structure may cave in at any time. So what he says is he orders the main entrance closed and all the four walls closed amid, and then he pours sand from top to fill up so that no the solid rocks they don't crumble in. Just to fill up the sand, it took 3 years for them. Then you can imagine the size of the temple. Later on, in 1909, as they were clearing more sand around and around, they found one more smaller temple, which was later found to be the original Sun Temple. Now it is prayed as a Maya Devi temple where the Lakshmi image is put up. In 1915, the Navagraha lintel and everything were strewn all over the place, and all of them were moved to a shed somewhere here in the Navagraha shed, where all this are kept in safe custody. Then in 1939, around so they started clearing more and more sand around this, and then they found the kitchen block basement alone, and the south gateway and the Vaishnava temple on the southwest extreme corner. Then in 1984, after so much of effort, it became the World Heritage Site status for the first one in Odisha. So by 1930 or 1940, we have seen the temple or whatever is available in full form. But the questions, in addition to digging the sand, it has dug up a lot of questions, unanswered questions. So who did this? Who built this? And what made him to build this temple, biggest temple, and that to at a remote place? How many years it took for the temple to complete? And where did they find the brilliant artisans to craft this? By the time people are thinking that Puri is the pinnacle of Orisian architecture. And was it built by slave labor like the other North Indian temples, or was it built by a dedicated guild of temple builders? How did they transport the heavy material, rocks, and other things? Was there any? It is very near to sea. Was there any seaport there, or because now there is no river nearby? There is only now the it is around 1.5 kilometers away from the beach. So how they brought so much of stone blocks to this sandy, deserted beach area? From where did they source it? And they are finding a lot of stone beams strewn around which are used in construction, and they are perplexed on why stone beams are used in this construction, which they are not seen in many of the other similar temples. And they were amazed at the 𝗕𝗃𝗃, the sheer size of 𝗕𝗃𝗃 and other things, and the size of the girders, how these big girders were lifted to it. And the basic question, still it is raging on, is whether the temple was completed or not, and it was abandoned in between and left as it is. So now we are going to see the try to solve or reconstruct the history and answer the questions one by one based on the available documentation. The big question is, how did they collapse? There are so many theories, conspiracy theories, and then the alien theories. A lot of theories are there. So, how did it collapse? Due to enormous weight, or a faulty base, or sinking of foundation, natural disaster, earthquake, or dereliction, or it was damaged by humans. So, let us see how on each of these questions. So we are relying on historical evidences sourced from palm leaves, which are collected around 1960s and 70s, collated, validated, and translated by Sivasankar and other team. Which based on this, they have published the New Light on Konark book. The interesting and first primary evidence for this is a book called 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗀, which is a chronicle for the temple building activities of this Konarka temple, which is written in Karani script in Old Oriya with 73 leaves. It talks over 12 years of construction from 1241 to 1258 on the 7th regnal year to 18th regnal year of Narasihma Deva. This is a one of a kind document where no other temple in India, to my knowledge, consists of a record of how this was built in greater detail. It is like a project manual. Even the grand Rajaraja temple, which boasts of the maximum number of inscriptions, the inscriptions talk about what grant Rajaraja has given, his family has given to the various people and how it has been structured. All this is post facto beneficial donations. Nothing about how the temple was constructed, who are the people involved, except the names of the major sthapatis, nothing is available. But here is a temple where the complete documentation is available in palm leaves. There were questions of authenticity of these palm leaves, but except 70, except a few mismatches, most of the 70% of 70%, 80% of this content is believed to be in line with the actual things. The next major document is 𝗫𝗃𝗀𝗃, an architectural survey, which was done in the 16th century by the descendants of Narasihma, who at the time asked somebody to do a detailed description and drawing plans and other things of three major temples, Lingaraja, Jagannatha, and 𝗫𝗃𝗀𝗃. And this temple was documented. So they have recovered palm leaf scripts, 23 leaves written in Karani scripts. And this is also a basis for reconstructing some other things. This is how the drawings look like. The third one is 𝗦𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗃, which people are familiar with. This is the temple journal of Puri temple, the chronicle from 𝗕𝗯𝗦𝗃𝗀𝗃 days. But again, it was destroyed. Puri is the notorious place where every 2 years, like a harvest, it will be raided by the Turks and others, and then they will burn the city, take away everything. It is the Somnathpur of East. So the documents get destroyed, and then it was reconstructed, rewritten. So every time it is rewritten, some more stories, some more legends, and then the history gets muddled. So in terms of authenticity, we can rely on this, and then slowly less on 𝗫𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀. There are some more corroborating evidences. One is that Trikala Mahamaya Archana Vidhi, which relates to the tantric worship of Mahagayatri temple, which is on the back, and that is an origin. So it also corroborates some of the existence of earlier Sun temple. The other interesting document is Silpa Sarani, again a palm leaf manuscript detailing the technical architecture of Odishan temples. And there are plans for Mahaprasada Prasada type of temples. And the Lingaraja as well as Konarka temples matches exactly on this plan. In fact, the Konark size is exactly around 1.5 times as per the measurements which they had did. So this says that there was some documentation, there was some basis for the construction. The other interesting conclusive proof is 𝗫𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃, which is again a Orissa manuscript written in Karani. This talks extensively about the rituals, daily, monthly, special days and morning, evening pujas, Chodasa Samhara pujas, all these things in detail. So we clearly know that this temple was completed. It was in worship, and it was continued to worship till 16th century. So with this, we are able to now know the source material, the content, and analysis of what could have happened. So based on this, they have reconstructed some amount of chronology and history on how this temple is made. So let us analyze this in three dimensions. One, let us see the king who made it happen. Before talking about the king, let us take a step back and compare two great kings which were around 200 years apart. Both were sons of a great king emerging from shadows of his forefathers who were having a larger than life profile. And both worked as military commanders for his father and has won many wars even as a crown prince. And both invaded Bengal and expanded southwards to fund his visions of building a grand temple. Both wanted to commemorate his victories by building a great monument, a grand temple. And they wanted these temples to be bigger than the temples built by their forefathers. The interesting part is, during their time, these two temples achieved pinnacle of fame, but after that, their time, gradually in the next 100 years, 200 years, they fell into great disuse. The great uh, mm, contract view is that the temple built by the forefathers were continued to be in worship and continued partnership, while the temples built by the sons fell into disuse for some time. So by now you would have guessed whom they are. The first one is Narasihma Deva, who is a sponsor of 𝗕𝗯𝗂𝗀𝗏𝗔, which is the Sun Temple of Konark, which was built in the 13th century. The comparison I'm making is with none other than the builder of 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏, the great Rajendra Chola, who surpassed his father Rajaraja Chola and built 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏, which is almost similarly like the Tanjore temple. So we are seeing two great kings with a similar vision and similar passion doing things 2 centuries apart. Let us take a peek on the Eastern Ganga dynasty, which built temples all over Odisha. So they were the temple builders of Odisha, and in their reign over 400 years, they built extensive temples of repute. This is the chronological history starting from Anantavarma in 1038 to 1434. Bhanadeva IV was the last king. But we are not going into each and every king. The key ones are the colored ones. The first one is the Anandavarma Chola Ganga, who is related to Veera Rajendra Chola. He is the Maplai or the king of Veera Rajendra. Again, it didn't leave Kulothunga Chola, who came from Vengi and become the Chola king. So for tribute and other issues, he raided Kalinga and then it was severely damaged. And Anantavarma started rebuilding the Puri temple to the current form. His son Anangabhima Deva completed the Puri temple to the current form, complete with the four components and the grand one. His daughter Chandrika built the Anantavastu temple nearby. The son Rajaraja couldn't do much because continuous Muslim invasion. And the next generation, Anangabhima Deva III, built the Megeshwara Bhaskareshwara temple in Bhubaneswar, which is a slightly different, unique temple where they had taken a Ashoka pillar type of thing and built a tall Linga Stamba, which is 2 story high. A totally different type of temple. Now comes our hero, Narasimha who built the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗏𝗃 temple. So he has come, if you see this, he has come from a family of temple builders and he wanted to excel all of them who have built tall and grand temples. So this is Narasimha for you. And if you go to Konark, the portrait of Narasimha is there everywhere, every angle. He is Narasimha doing this, Narasimha doing like more like the monarchs of our current year. So he has been good in marketing. He is comfortable with getting fame, and his passion is for getting higher fame. So we are seeing into the two dimensions of Narasimha. From young age, he has been fighting in the South as commander, and he has been amassing enough amount and money and wealth for building the temple. So he beat Ganapati of Kakatiya and expanded up to Godavari, and then he defeated in the Bengal Malik Izzuddin up to Midnapur, and then he went into Paramarthi Deva and then plundered the capital of Gaud. So all the three sides he has done, and then mm, and then he has defeated the Muslim raids. So by 1220-30, he has stabilized and he has made it into a massive Ursian empire. And this control and the expanse lasted another 300 years, where till then there was no major Bengal Muslim invasions. So such was the control and expansion during his reign. So we see the other side of Narasimha, the temple builder. He has taken 500 people, Stabadis and others. He has recruited them, and then with the people, he went into Vijayaganda campaign and won this. Even during his younger days, he was planning for it, and even when he was a crown prince, quarrying of stones has been going on for 6 years. In addition to Konark, he has built the famous Sri Kurmam temple, Simhachalam temple, Kapras temples in Den Canal, which show a totally different class and stamp. He was popularly called as Silpachna for his temple building, or Ekavali by Vidyadhara. So this is the king. Now let us see what kind of artisans who made this happen. The Bayasakada project plan lists the roles and responsibilities, what they are doing, how much salary they got, and what kind of benefit. And then, interestingly, like nowadays, they had the regular salary bonus and additional bonus also. So they talks about special gifts on completion of a certain project, certain milestone ahead of time, and king comes in and pleased with the activity, puts some more benefit to the Sirpi who done extensively. So we see the Sutradhara as a Sadasiva, Samantaraya Mahapatra as a chief architect, executive architect, Karmakara, and then superintendent of work who is handling the executive part, Murtikaras, image makers, Swansya, stone cutters, and then specialist on scaffolding, plastering, and iron casting. And interestingly, there is one more person called Harichandana Brahmapara, who is in charge of accounts and treasury. And this is his accounts is the bias akada where he is done. Every day I have spent so much for this, and then this the activities happened there. From this, we are able to reconstruct a lot of things. In addition to this, the queen also frequently used to come and then surprise this, and the two Rajaguris as well as priests used to frequently visit there, um, um, and we see a lot of heavy mention about them. So in terms of artisans and artists, they talk about various of artists, and then the book lists some of the key ones: goldsmith, painters, plasters, iron casters. So clear roles: brass and bronze casters separate, and a head of stone quarries manager, stone specialist, and the people who are various classes of Silpi, Silpi Nayaga, Silpa Shastra trainers, architects, and Sutradhara, the main chief architect who is responsible for all the drawing measurements and other things. So it's a massive organization of 1,000+ people. So the next interesting question is, how did they source the stones? If you see the map, now Konark is a beach, but no river nearby. Mahanadi flows somewhere over there. But if we are reconstructing on the Google, and if you see some other things, people say that there was a river flowing from a branch flowing from Vidnasi, there is Katak, and it has a channel all the way right up to the Konark building site. It is called Chandrabhaga. It was referred as Chandrabhaga. There was one Chandrabhaga regular channel, and then they put another channel for doing construction work with the roller quarry way. So if you see the stones, they were coming from the mountains, which is around let us say around 60, 70 miles, 200 miles kind of distance from various mountains through the rivers. The book also has reconstructed and mapped how they were flowing across the route and what type of stones have come from different things. We see various types of stones, rough and porous stones for outer building, and then white stones for the inner walls, and the laterite for the foundation, and the key one, mahogany chloride, for the main idols and for the sharp images, and multiple colors of chlorate, black, blue, white, and rougher chlorate. And then the rosy Remuna stone for the outer walls, and some more varieties of sandstones. So there is detailed documentation of what kind of stones are quarried and how they are built in. That is available in Biosakara. The other interesting aspect is iron beams. Surprisingly, even now we are finding it struggling it difficult to have very good quality cast irons. They used to have cast irons of pretty long size. They're able to have large foundries which are able to make this kind of long iron beams. So that was advanced foundries. There was mention of foundries, and then foundry master and other things by Sakada. And the interesting part is, normally they were used as a load bearing buttress across the pillars. Some of them which has fallen are now left in an exhibition here. Still, after lying in the open for 300 years, still it has not rusted in a great way. That talks volumes about their metallurgy technology. Interestingly, the use of iron in this part has created a lot of magnetic myths, which we will deal at a later part of the session. Then the question is, how did they lifted all this heavy equipment? The Biosector talks about scaffoldings and then slopes and then pulley kind of systems, and based on the descriptions and other things, Sadasivarat has done some illustrative pictures based on the description, and they talk about different types of scaffolding, horizontal scaffolding for seated work along the wall and for lifting heavy things, and then lot of pulley systems which used elephants and other multiple pulleys to lift the heavy stones. Interestingly, it doesn't talk about earthen slope, sand filling of inner structure for temporary. Nothing is there. They keep on stacking the stone structures one by one, and then they build it to great height. This is radically different from the approach taken by Big Temple. In the Big Temple, the way it is structured is totally different. It has got it's almost height and other things are comparable. However, a Big Temple in Tanjavur has got a very shallow 6 feet foundation, and there is no bonding material. Each stone block was interlocked with no metal or mortar bonding. Double wall Sandara type of a construction, so that the heavy load is distributed into two separate walls. And they didn't use any iron beams. and mud slope to use to the higher point. So they build the temple up to the basement and then up to the wall level, and then build some mud, build the next temple, and keep on covering it in mud till this one like this. So as and when the temple construction goes, the mud is covered, and then they go to the next level like that. Once it is completed, they clean up and then start doing structuring on a reverse order. So this is how the graphic visualization of how they might have built big temple in Tanjavur by using mud slopes and covering the temple in a mound, and start working on a reverse order on the from the top. So this is radically different from the way the technology is used in Konark, and with this, with a more complex temple, they were able to finish it in lesser time. Now, having seen the king and artisans, let us see a brief chronology of events as per the 𝗑𝗨𝗃𝗏 documentation. I'm sorry, give me a break. So nowadays, ISO is a buzzword used in IT and other projects. Okay, the latest standard is ISO 21500, but they have achieved this kind of a documentation standards and details in the 13th century in 1250 itself. So this is like a project document, and which talks about a lot of events that are relating to um, each component of a particular project. What is the typical things on a software development life cycle or a project management life cycle happens here also. So project kickoff is explained in grand terms. Everybody getting designations, offers, and then prices. So in addition to this, uh, there is an in-source team. Like Raja's one of the wives is from Pandyas, so his father-in-law has given a lot of gifts, pearls, and other things, and he also sent some selfies, and they were welcomed with red carpet. The main queen is from Malwa, but its a secondary queen is from Pandyas. So it is the in-source team where we use our existing resources to do it. So this has created some more complications and fun. I think this also answers mm, our Sivasankar sir's question on this, which we can discuss in later. And there is a defect escalation, like how we do it nowadays. Interestingly, the Sirpis from Tamil Nadu maybe were more familiar with granite, which is of harder stone, and the Sutradhara or the project manager says that their work is not up to the mark. Maybe the difference in stones are issues. They go into hunger strike, and since they are Raja's relatives, he doesn't want to take a decision, and he escalates to the higher level and talks to Raja. And finally, Narasimha says that let them work only on the jolly work and other decorative work, which is on mahogany stone, which is harder, rather than trying to go into the sandstone stuff. So that is how a potential conflict was resolved with the in-sourced resources. So framework setup, iron casting and other things are done, and they do prototype. So initially they do the foundation, and then they put all the four Parsavadevata temples in Nisa temples on three corners, and this was the sample plan, and then they start the main plan on top of it. So there are frequent client visits. So they clearly mention that Raja is going to come for inspection. So they also say that for the past 5 days, no work is happening. Everybody is preparing for the inspection and doing decoration and other things. So this kind of tamasha happened in earlier times also. It is not a new thing. So major milestones are celebrated, like the big lion, the 𝗲𝗏𝗃 set in the Shikara, and then grand puja, and then gifts and additional bonus to the Shilpis who finished it ahead of time. There are some delivery failures during monsoon. Some of the mahogany stones handling boat failed to arrive on time, Because of that, one segment could not be finished. So the pilot or the contractor or transport contractor is fined. Even that is documented. So funding. The Raja goes into frequent wars, and then the Bayasakara talks about Raja came with the booty and fund from this campaign, and he showered us with gold coins and other things, which will continue the construction for next 2 months or 3 months like that. So from Bengal wars and other things, a major part of funding was also done. Finally, as this grows, around something, Maharana, in one of his visits, clearly says that I want this to be finished by 10th day of 10th month of 10th year. It has to be finished, and the roof of the temple has to be done. I need to do puja because he has got something in mind. And then he wanted this temple to be consecrated on sun god's birthday on the February. He wanted the consecration to happen. Again, like any other software projects, a lot of integration issues. They completed the Kalasa, they take it up, and then finally it is not fitting. And then Sutradhara scratching his head. And a lot of experts are brought in from Puri and others, the Rajaguru. Finally, they somehow finish it. So after all these challenges, it was one rare project which went live on target. On 11th day of Maha Shukla Panchami, on the sun's birthday, the first puja begins on target on 1258 AD. So an interesting story. This is only a brief, but if you read the whole book, there are so many interesting events for it to either take a mega series or something thriller series. So after all these things, once the temple is done, the project documentation is done. Vidyadhara Pattanayaka completes the account, makes 3 copies and files it, and then gets his record. So this is how we find Bayasakada as a clear documentation. Actually, Sadashivarat and others have compiled 3-4 copies of it with slightly differing and come out to a common reference of events. Again, Sadashivarat has analyzed this and he has highlighted so many instances of project pressures and then doing something under duress and then deadline. All these things are highlighted and clearly evident in many of the situations. So he has, in his running commentary, he has mentioned it in several times. So this is how the temple was completed. Now we know that the temple is completed. There is documentation and it has been done in a structured way and it was done on time. Now let us see how it fell into decline. We know that it was completed and active worship was done for a long time because there is a clear documentation on 𝗫𝗪𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃 which mentions about the daily rituals of this temple. And in 1570, Abul Fasal also maintains that it is undamaged under active worship. Around 1570, Kalapahad raids from Bengal and fearing route, many of the valuable jewels and other things are moved to Puri. And in fury, Kalapahad is said to have damaged many of the content of things. Again, this is not the cause of fall of the temple. So similar attempts have been tried on Tanjore temple also during the Muslim invasion, but they couldn't raise the temple. But the main Adityas and others puja images damaged. There is a slowly non-maintenance of the temple, and the upper Vimana got exposed to severe storms, and then the mason work started losing up. And unlike Tanjavur temple, it is not the interlocked thing. The stones are bound by an in between layer of lime. So unless we regularly paint it and coat it, trees will start growing and it will damage the lime. So probably around 17th century, 1629, the eastern 𝗪𝗪𝗃𝗀, which is facing the sea, fell down, and then the east wall is out along with the damaging of the main puja idol. So the puja would have been stopped, and the two Urshav Murtis were shifted to Puri. We can see both these idols in Puri. On the northern side of main temple, there is a sun temple where these Urshav Murtis are available. And every Ratha Saptami, there is a Ratha festival also happens for this Urshav Murtis. So with the main deity gone, Urshavamurti is gone, and no puja, gradually maintenance and other things went in, and then so people, the temple started slowly losing control, lot of overgrowth. So the documentation of the puja, Padmakesara Dula, the colophon, the ring mentions that for 12 years there was no puja and other things, and then slowly sun god left the temple and it went into misuse. So probably with the total misuse and other thing, and the main holding stones falling apart, it started crumbling. There was a biological research in 1929 when there is continuous rain in a particular region, and a standard mass growth is there. So what they had done is, in some of the mass growth which are in the corner niches of the temple, which is still undamaged, they started analyzing the deposits and reworked on how much would have passed between each year of mass growth. So they reworked and then come up around a data of around 1573, which is almost tying with the time of the Kalapagad, right, where the maintenance stopped. So when a temple is regularly maintained, every year they clean and then they give lime wash and other things, the mass doesn't grow. Only when it is left to the elements with no interruption, the mass grows up. So scientifically, they have also reverse worked and find out that somewhere around 1570, the the temple was slowly stopped out of worship and went into disuse. So around Konark, there are a lot of mythical things, mythical pictures and other things. And then there is a picture of Konark temple circulating that till 1834, the original Dula was intact, and it was done, and Britishers destroyed it for their own benefit. So now looking, if you are slightly looking at this kind of a picture, now you can see that this is a reconstruction of a Ferguson drawing, which has been put behind the normal Jagmogana picture. The interesting part is they forgot to remove or erase the Parsva Devada structures, which are there. Ideally, the Parsva Devada structure, one should be here, one should be there, and one should be on the other thing. The south passage of the structure is still intact. So this is the actual temple damaged Dula portion. They have inserted this in between, and this is also on an oblong inlet. So it is a wrongly botched up digital art, a digital forgery, and this sort of myths are also circulating, saying that at the time when it is said that the photography is there, photography was not at all invented. So Konark leads to a lot of this kind of myths, in addition to the magnetic myths. Okay, so one story is that the peak, the Kalasa was not able to be fixed, and finally the the chief's 12-year son finally fixed it, fearing retribution from the king and others. The son committed suicide from top of the temple. There is one story. That's why there was no worship. Again, since it is worshipped as a temple, this is a myth. And between each two stone spaces, there is an iron plate, and this all these iron plates and then work as a central magnet, and then they hold the beams in place. And because of this, the central sorry image will be hanging on the air. So. Uh, First rays of sun will pass through the mandapa. Central magnets are removed by Britishers, and then Portuguese took the magnets. And the magnet was destroyed by Kalapaka, because of which the cohesive force is gone and the temple crumbled. All these are there, but they remain as myths, because in the Baya Sakada and other things, there is no clear mention of this event. And iron plates were primarily used for load bearing, not for on the sides. And there is no mention of magnets floating and other things. So these are again stand as myths, which is associated with any grand temple. And there is a myth saying that the chief Tabati was very busy doing pawn, and then Raja comes in, and then he wanted a spittoon, and the Raja keeps a spittoon for the chief Tabati to spit the pawn on this. And then later on, it was astonished. The same story, the same myth is repeated in Tanjavur for Raja Raja also. And I don't know, the same would have been repeated in Gujarat also for the Solankis. So there are myths, there are facts, and there are reconstructed histories. We need to separate this. So around 1 hour has passed. Uh, we have two quick sections. One, I want to briefly cover the basics of Odisha temple structure, 2 lines, and then how this would have been there in the original structure. When you talk about Odisha temple architecture, it is a variation of the Nagara style, and then they used slightly different structure and different naming terminology. So if you see this, that the sanctums or diulas are of 3 types. One is the Rekha diula, where the vertical banana-like structure, conical structure with the curvilinear columns, and basically this type of Rekha diulas are used for sanctums only. The next one is like a pyramid kind of an structure, which is derived from the Nagara style, which is a pyramid tower of stacked tiers. So usually it is used for mandapas like Jagmoguna, Natya, and Boga mandapas have this kind of a Pidadula top. The third type of top is the Kakra Dula, which is like a wagon, the rectangular gopuram like wagon structure, and typically used for Tantric and Shakti temples. So these are the three major shapes of temples: Reka, Pida, and Kakra. When you take a temple complex, typically so with the Puri temple and Jagannath temple, the Lingaraja temple, they completed the first full set of complex. So there is a Garbhagraha, which is with the sanctum, which is normally a Kakra or Reka type of a tower. And then next one is a Darshan Mandapa, which is typically it's called Jagmoguna, which is typically the pyramidal type of Pida structure. Third one is a Natha Mandira for dances and other things, with a lot of opening and pillars, not fully closed like the other one, so that people can view from outside also. So this will again have the Pida type of conical pyramidal structure. The last one is the Boga Mandapa, which is for the food offering and other things, which is normally on the line. Interestingly, in Konarka, the Boga Mandapa is not on straight line, and it is on the southeast corner, which is the auspicious one for cooking. Having understood the components of the temple, let us see how it was seeing in the original splendor. This is the documentation which is found in the architecture of Padmakesara temple, where in palm leaves, here this is 4 palm leaves together, they had done a drawing of the original Padmakesara temple, how it would have looked when it was constructed. This is the documentation in 15th or 16th century. So the Diula portion is here, which is tall, and the Jagmogana, the horses, the Gajas. So here we see 2 pairs of Gajasimas, one here and the Aranastamba. This Aranastamba is now in Puri, and the Natha Mandira with a closed pyramidal roof, and again the pair of Kajasimas. Now, The Arnastamba is no longer there, gone to Puri. The Gajastambas are missing. So this is the full drawing of the temple. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine palm leaves they have put together and then given this complete drawing in the temple manuscript. The same thing, a conjectural drawing done by our friend Ramakrishna Kongala in Gwalior IITM. So he has used the Ferguson drawing to see what is now and it would have looked at the earlier part of time. So this is a far more clear drawing where he has extended this from the base of the damaged walls. When you compare Konark, based on the height and the drawings, it would have stood around 240 feet tall, which is slightly higher than the big temple Rajarajeshwaram, and which is around 1.5 times Lingaraja plan. The ultimate temple, which could have beaten all of them, is the Bhojaraja temple in Bhopal. As of now, only this much is there: the grand linga and the enclosure wall and the tower. But Adam Hardy and others, based on the time plan and projection of this, they have reconstructed, recalculated the entire tower, and it goes to a whopping 300 feet kind of a temple. So with this, we will be able to see how big a temple it would have been in his original glory. So the document, Padmakesara manuscript, also talks about a lot of ground plan drawings and other things, which gives very good insight onto how temples were planned, marked, constructed in stages. This is a visualization of how it would have looked. A conjectural drawing with the Dula, Jakmokana, and Natha Mandir little disconnected, and Bhoga Mandir on the southeast corner. Whenever we visit Konark, please don't stop at the temple alone. Even before going into the temple, please visit the site museum, which is on the opposite side, which has got enormous documentation and beautiful content. First visit the site museum, understand what Konark is about, and then only I would recommend visiting the main temple. So this is how the temple looks now, and this is the original visualization with the full tower and with the roofed mandapas. This is the view, which is currently from the southeast corner. So you can see the missing dula here, and then missing roof here, and the entire structure is missing on the Bhogamandapa. The same view from northeast corner, where you see the dula is there only up to the Bada wall structure, and after that it is flat. So with this, we have a quick overview of how the temple is. To conclude the session, we will go into a aerial view and see how things look at present in reality. For that, we are going into one of the fantastic videos by ASI, which has been published very recently. I am showing a video by ASI Bhubaneswar Circle. Um, I have muted the sound, and I'm using my own sound only. So this is how it looks from top. Even this is a heavenly view. Even the builder Narasihma Deva would not have seen this kind of a view. We see the Jagmogana, and this is the Natya Mandapa without the roof, with the Gajasimas here, and this is side Chandrasila kind of a view. Here we see the Bhoga Mandapa with only the pillars available. And on the left hand side, we see the holy.
Sir, excuse me if I
So,
could interrupt. We don't see the video.
I am sorry.
Thank
One
you.
moment. I forgot it. Thanks for reminding. Right. So, are you able to see this now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Very
sir.
well now. Yeah.
The video is visible now? Right. Sorry for the mess up. In my excitement, I missed that. So this is a video. This is the heavenly view, which even King Narasimha Deva would not have seen. Here we are seeing the main Jagmogana with a damaged Dula on the back and the Nada Mantra here. You can see the Nada Mantra, only the pillars on top, and then the roof is missing. The Gajasimas on the front, and the Chandrasila steps on the side. This is a view of Bhogamandapa with no roof. And on the left hand side, we see the holy well for the puja. This is the backside view of the Dula. You can see that the Dula is having only half built structure. Again, there is a view of the layers, potalas, where life size 6-7 feet kind of an Surasundaris and dance figures are there. Now we are seeing the backside of the Dula damaged. This is the north sun, and this one is the east one, and this is the south one. Behind this, you see the pit where the actual core temple is there, the sanctum. This is south Parsvadeva of Surya. Here we see the hole where the Ratna Simhasana is there, and you can see this Ratna Simhasana. That is where the original sun god temple was there. So this entire length, this height of 12 feet was closed in sand, and the entire area was covered in sand with only the Jagmogana visible, and they had dug out the entire temple. This is the old sun temple, and after the new temple was done, it was converted into a Lakshmi temple. Behind this, there is a Vishnu temple. So again, this is where we see a lot of iron pillars, and this is a view towards the seaside. And this is the two grand elephants and horses, which are on the south and north gates. And this is part of the Natya Mandapa, which is on slightly on the right side. Now these are the iron pillars, the grand ones. See the size and other things. This is the main entrance to the um Jagmogana, and this is part of the lintel, Navagraha lintel. And this entrance, Jagmogana entrance, has been sealed in and filled with the sand. Even though we are seeing the front facade, inside it has been filled and filled with sand. So now we can see the Bhairavas and all the lifelike statues, tall statues, Gajasimas holding the Kalasa. So a majestic temple, even what is remaining gives us so much of awe and I think imagine how it would have been when it was in its grand splendor uh, at this point of its full glory. One moment. So with this, we complete the walkthrough of the Konark Sun Temple, how it was recovered, how it was made, the reconstruction of the history, and the comparison between the original and what is available here. So thank you to the team which made this interesting presentation possible on a May Day as a tribute to the Odisha architecture. I wholeheartedly thank the All India RLG webinar team, Mahesh, Nageshwar, Rajendran, Rajesh, Sanjeev, Srinu, Sudhakar, Sushila Kulasekar, Arun from Mumbai, Arun Kumar Cochin, Bhavendra Singh. Some of them I met discuss, Batadi, Gautam, Jayachandran from Lina from Kolkata. Thank you all for a great time. I look forward to do some more presentations and continued association with you guys. And it was a joy working with you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We have to thank you, in fact, which is coming up
Yeah.
in a while.
So to continue, if you have any
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
queries
We
or
do
things,
have,
you can always contact me.
yeah, we do
You can
have
just
some
contact me.
question. We do have some questions for you that has come up from
Sure.
our colleagues and friends. We'll have a minute's break, sir, now, and then we will start with the Q&A session. And just before that, I would like to welcome again Dr. Sridharan, retired Deputy Superintendent, State Archaeology, Government of Tamil Nadu, Dr. Preetha Nair from Dan Foundation, Madurai, and Dr. Sivasankar Reddy. Of course, Dr. Sivasankar Reddy is the speaker for our next webinar, which is going to be conducted on the 15th of May. So dear friends, get ready for another exciting webinar that's going to take us through the Buddhist art in India, which we haven't done so far, except for Sanchi. Right. So dear friends, let me request you for filling up the feedback form, which is going to appear right now on the chat box. Please take a minute of your time to fill up this feedback, because this is the way we can improve, we can progress, and we can be perfect. Right. So dear friends, sir, now we are going to move into the Q&A.
Yes,
so
sir.
of course, as you mentioned yourself, this is the question from Mr. Sivasankar Reddy, the father-in-law of Narasihma Deva, the builder of the temple, sent a few sculptors from Madurai, and there was a quarrel between the Tamil sculptors and the Odia sculptors, which was resolved by the king. Do we have any corroborative evidence from Tamil Nadu, sir, for this?
I have been searching. They say that the king is Vikramapandian or somebody, and there is some brief reference about he getting married to a Eastern Ganga princess kind of a thing. But uh, again, many of these things are circumstantial evidences, and we don't get any clear inscriptional evidence on this.
All right. So you'll be
In
still
fact,
searching.
when I did this presentation in Tamil Nadu for the first time and second time, people are surprised that a Pandya sculptures went into Odisha and beyond. They were surprised because the legend is that the Chalukyas saw the Kailasanatha temple, and then some of the artisans and other things were outsourced for Mallikarjuna and other temples, which were replicated in Padatakkal. But they were supposed to know that there were deputations and on-site duty in Odisha also.
All right.
But again, circumstantial evidence only is available, and we don't see any clear inscription evidence. But again, I need to dig through a lot. And again, Nagi Reddy sir, you know that Pandyan history is muddled with so many Pandyas, so many Vikramas. To find the chronology of a particular Pandya is again a nightmare. Some more work to be done to make the connection.
But we are sure you won't stop until you find the answer. So we probably have the answer during one of our webinars in the near future.
Definitely, there are a lot of scholars available, and then they'll be able to help us a lot.
Right. So
Thank you.
talking about this, do we know where from did the king get the inspiration for this monument for the Sun Temple? This is another question.
Now, their forefathers have been building similar monuments, bigger size, and he wanted still bigger.
We mean the chariot shapes, sir, with all the wheels and the 12 pairs of wheels are around.
That is the passion where this is a question which I was exploring. There are two, three theories and say that it was under influence of Magas. Okay, but again, historians say that the amount of Magas and other related tribes traced around Bhubaneswar and Puri region is very little, and they might not have influenced it. So probably the guess is that there has been an earlier smaller temple, or probably during Samba's period, from the Samba's period itself, there would have been a small temple, slightly bigger temple, and he would have got the inspiration to build it like a chariot.
Chariot, right?
Interestingly, this chariot concept was taken into many parts. In southern India, we have got some two or three chariot temples. By around 13th century, Tarasuram and others,
Yeah, right.
Kulothunga took this model into South India. And there is one beautiful temple in Melakadapu, which is built like a chariot. Uh, and uh, and later on, lot of mandapas become ratha mandapas with wheels and chariots. There is one in Kumbakonam, and there is one nearby. Many of the later Chola, after Kulothunga, they feature ratha mandapas. So,
Yes.
that would have been one of the inspirations of the Shilpis, or they might have seen the things. There are again lot of legends around the wheels, and then we could say the time of the day exactly up to 3 minutes
Yeah,
and
the
other things.
sundial and all that.
Again, it is again a myth, and scientifically it is not possible.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is from Mr. Sridharan Krishnappa. Nice lecture, sir. He would like to know where are the palm leaf manuscripts preserved and can we see them?
Sir,
Where are these
where
palm
are the
leaf manuscript
manuscripts?
documents that you mentioned about? And can we see them?
Probably I have not explored the current location, but primarily they were sourced by Sadasivarat and others during 1960s. Actually, they sourced three copies of it, corroborated, removed the
Right.
inconsistencies, and then constructed a common accepted version. Even in the book, they talk about chronologically in two separate things, where it's slightly different versions of chronology. So they say that accordingly, the average chronology is like this. So again, I have not gone into seeing the actual manuscripts part. I will explore and revert back to Sridharan sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And here we
The
have a
book talks
question.
about photographs of the manuscripts only.
All right. Okay. Okay. We got it, sir. So here we have a question from Madam Uma Sendil, PhD research candidate from the Department of Ancient History and Archaeology, University of Madras. Thank you very much for a detailed presentation of Konark Temple. I need two clarifications. What could be the foundation depth of this temple? And number two, any kind of temple tank vestiges are explored in or near this temple?
Foundation, they say that they had dug a fairly detailed pit with rough stones, and then horizontal granite stones on top of it. Probably a little more detail, but it is certainly deeper than what we have in the Deva. The second, ponds, we don't see a major incidence of ponds nearby. So many of them would have been artificial. When the sand can cover a great temple and show only the tip, imagine what it would have done to a pond. And
Right.
the 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀 and others talk about a river flowing nearby which has vanished. So much would have changed.
Yeah, correct, sir. Thank you, sir. And here we have a question from our colleague Arun Kumar from Cochin. What kind of stone is used for the foundation?
Normally for foundation, they use loose rock and some amount of granite slabs to horizontally take the load and distribute it sideways. Normally there will be blocks of granite which will be rolling slightly on a loose stone kind of and broken stones.
Right. Thank you, sir. And here is a question from Mr. Manoj Vasudevan, a photographer who had given a webinar to us on our platform. He is asking, do we have
Yes,
such
Manoj.
palm leaf plants of any other South Indian temple? That's a good question.
To my knowledge, no.
Right.
Not even inscriptions.
Yeah,
Not see the temple inscriptions talk mostly about post facto, rather than details of how this temple uh, was done.
right. Thank you,
If you
sir.
take a reference of the Tanjavur temple, it talks about post facto grants to the people, and
Right.
it doesn't talk about the construction details.
Correct, sir. Thank you, sir. And here we have a question from Madam Vaishnava Devi. Very informative work, sir. Thank you for the detailed information. Has ASI got the account of the material composition of those iron pillars? Any structural study has yet been taken on the load transfer mechanism of these buttress elements, the composition of magnets, and the structural contribution?
I have
You
not
can
studied
divide the
or
questions
researched
into
on
two
it.
parts. Okay.
Yeah, both parts I
Sorry.
won't be able to answer. Okay.
Right.
So I have not studied on this aspect. Even though I'm a physics graduate, naturally I should have studied that. I didn't because now the bug is focused by others. Definitely they might have, the other institutes would have done a research and published a paper on composition of this. We need to explore and find out. I'll try to do that and share.
Okay. And in the
Because
second,
there are analysis on the Tanjore bronzes, the composition, how it is done, the individual timestamp of different types of different period composition. Like that, there have been studies of iron pillars of Delhi, Sanchi, and others, and
right.
definitely there will be studies on this also.
Great, sir. Thank you. So the second part of our question goes like this. Any structural study has yet been taken on the load transfer mechanism of these buttress elements?
I am not aware of that. Uh, the interesting part is during 2010 or something, there was a major movement to reconstruct the temple, like how Reddy sir has done for Alampur and other great reconstruction temples. There was a plan to reconstruct this bit by bit in a more structured way, and then complete it to the original plan by putting additional elements. At the time, they were doing the load bearing and other related studies also. Again, that would have been a huge expenditure even for India. So probably it was kept on hold for some time. So at the time, definitely they would have done some more studies in this aspect. We may need to explore.
Right, sir. So here is the last question from our colleague Sandeep Gaur. Sir, can you kindly explain, if possible, what was the role of the iron beams?
Okay. As per the book and as per my knowledge, this is primarily a grander way of uh, spreading the load in construction as a cross beam, and there is a pictures which they are showing it. The challenge is when you're using sandstone, as long as they are horizontal, they handle very good stress and then they spread it up. The moment you put it on angle or vertical, it starts crumbling and then it starts splitting into scales. So wherever you build a huge columns of sandstones and other things, probably to distribute the load, they might have used iron beams around. So see, there are two popular ways of distributing the load of the Vimana or superstructure on top. Okay, some of the big southern temples, they use a Sandara technique, where instead of a single thick wall of this size, they have two small walls and a gap in between, and this goes on corbelling up to 3 or 4 floors and join into a single floor. This is how the Tanjore Big Temple, Brihadeeswara Temple, and others have met. Here,
Right.
they might have used, for load bearing, they might have used iron beams horizontally to distribute this thing and then distribute the load sideways.
Right. Thank you, sir. That explains, I hope, Sangeet God. Right, sir. Just before we go into the word of thanks for this great presentation, let me remind my dear friends and colleagues, please fill up the feedback form so that we can improve, progress, and get ourselves almost
Yeah.
perfect. I mean,
Uh,
we are still trying.
Sure. There is a comment from somebody that IIT Madras and other things were used in construction, but again I couldn't know who it is. If you can ping me offline, I would like to discuss with you and get some more details so that our knowledge is more complete. So can you ping me on my mobile number? I see comment from Galaxy S20 FE.
Sanjay Acharya.
Sanjay
That's it. Yeah,
Acharya.
that's his name. Sir, please do
Yeah,
contact Mr. Sivasankar Babu, sir, so we get the answer very soon. Great.
very
Sir,
soon. We will share
yeah,
it up and then I would like to also explore in these areas.
yes, sir. You don't stop.
Thank
You
you.
keep changing. You keep improving. You want to be perfect, which we
Yeah,
can see very well.
definitely. Change is the only constant thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, sir. Just before we go into the word of thanks, dear friends, let me remind you again, please do fill up the feedback form so that we get better and better and improve ourselves. Now, Mr. Sivasankar Babu, sir, it is a great pleasure knowing you. And
Thank you.
what we say is that labor is the ladder to human dignity and creativity. So we pay all our
Yes.
respects to our ancestral artisans who have left us such a grand monument. Though it's in ruins today, yet it tells us all about the architectural and artistic skills of those days. And those skills are still being perpetuated to this day. But you are doing it in a different way, very technically with your menu-based PPT. I didn't even know about this menu-based PPT until I met you. You know, you have proved that you are a great techno-savvy, sir. And thanks to you, sir, you have very nicely
It
separated.
makes my life easy. Say if you notice sharply, due to
Yes.
time I skipped a 15-minute segment.
But that's fine,
Conveniently
sir. But
skipped.
that's fine. I mean, we have,
Okay, nobody would notice.
yeah, we have learned a lot. So
That is
that's
the
great,
advantage of menu-based driven.
right? But you are able
With
to
this
give
presentation,
and
I'll be able to do a 15 minutes or a 2-hour presentation on this.
right, and you were able
Thank
to
you.
show us with all the technology by separating the myths, the facts, the faiths, and you reconstructed the whole story, and you almost reconstructed the whole temple. We could hear the sound of the chiseling of the carvings, the sculptures, the tumbling of the stones, the music of the rolling stones, you know. And sir, what else I
Thank you.
realized? You are you are still using the same technical words both in your IT and heritage profession. You know, when you are talking about in the IT business downloading and uploading of data, And here you are explaining to us the downloading and uploading of all the stones, And in IT business, you are talking about the RAMs. How many RAMs is your laptop? But here you are talking about the ramps that these kings, these artisans have used in those days to pull all these stones, So you come from a background of this IT, which has helped us visually. We really enjoyed it. I mean, we could, the words were going, and parallelly we could see the images, and so that was great. So now, sir, I, on behalf of the entire RLG fraternity, would like to thank you immensely for this very interesting talk, quite out of the ordinary and very educating. Thank you for taking your time in this busy schedule and honoring us with your presence and presentation. And the takeaway from this webinar,
the book.
Yes, of course, sir. And the takeaway from this webinar is technology is so simple but effective. Right, sir. So that's what we have learned, apart from all about heritage, architecture, and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you for, thanks RLG for giving me yet another opportunity to spread awareness about our rich heritage and talk about the great temples of India, and so that more people are interested in to know about the temple building and other arts of India. So thank you very much. Look forward to doing one more presentation again very soon in this.
Oh, of course, sir. We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. Most probably on, as you have done marketing, why not teach us about how to market ourselves, our skills, our guiding knowledge and skills. We will talk about it, sir, very soon. Of course, we look forward to your next.
Definitely. So here the bottom line is, in the past 25 years, I've been working as a business analysis, analyzing the business and saying that this is how the systems work or do it. Now I'm applying the same principles to temples and books. I have read this book and I am able to explain graphically, this is how the temple would have been built. Okay, the credit goes to the book, but I am giving a graphical picturization of the book in terms of words and stories.
Yeah, we have seen that just now.
That is the only the value addition there. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Again.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a
nice
great
evening.
day. Have a weekend. Yeah. In the COVID times, stay safe and be life. There is going to be life in another 2 months or 3 months where everybody will be out and we'll be actually seeing the monument instead of attending webinars. The day is not very far off. We look forward to that day. Till then, we continue to watch webinars. Goodbye then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, dear friends and colleagues who have come and attended this webinar. Thank you all.